Hello artists, welcome to your cell phone case design class. Today we will be decorating our phone case in a galaxy style. Later on, if you did want to use this, it is for an iPhone 7 Plus or an iPhone 8 Plus, or you can just use it as a fun example on designing a fun product that most of us use. So in front of you, be sure to have your case with that wax paper underneath it. Be sure to have a cup of water, a large brush, a smaller brush, a paper towel. You should have 2 sponges. Mine have been used, but yours should be nice and clean, so 2 sponges. Also, go ahead and pour your colors out on that second piece of wax paper. You should have a dark blue, a purple, a light blue, a pink, a vanilla color, and then of course your white and black. If you do not have all those materials, not a problem. You're welcome to push pause on the video and come back to us whenever you're ready. All right, for our first step, we do not have to get our sponges wet, but go ahead and grab one of your sponges. Again, don't get it wet because we don't want our paint to expand on our phone case. So with one of your sponges, go ahead and dip it into your dark blue. And again, if you can pour out your dark blue onto your wax paper. So go ahead and add a little bit of dark blue and you're just kind of bouncing inside of that dark blue. And then I do want you to bounce a couple times onto your paper towel so you don't have too much on there. I'm gonna add some dark blue, again bouncing with my sponge so I can get that texture. I'm gonna have some on the left side, a little bit in the middle, on the right side, and up here. So I'm gonna bounce here on the left side. And yours doesn't have to be exactly like ours, but be sure you're bouncing with your dark blue. If you need to go back, you can always go back and get some more dark blue. Bounce at least 4 or 5 times on your paper towel so you don't have too much on there. I'm gonna add some up here. You have this window space right here, so be sure to kind of go a little bit to the right of it. And I'm just bouncing. I'm gonna add a little bit over here to the right, almost like patches, little sections where they're gonna be dark blue. I'm gonna add a little bit more down here. Maybe connect it a little bit higher up. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly like ours, but you wanna make sure you have a good amount of dark blue on there. If you want your dark blue to be darker, let it dry, and then you can go back for a second coat. Again, just be sure you're bouncing right over those areas, but if it's too wet, it's gonna keep picking it up. So be sure you let it dry for a couple minutes before you go in there and give it a second coat. Once you're done with your dark blue, you do not have to wash your sponge. Again, just kind of pat some off onto your paper towel. And you're gonna go into that violety purple. Again, if you need to pour it out onto your wax paper, you can. And same idea, I'm just gonna go right into that purple, bounce some off on my paper towel, kind of like in a cleaner area, and I'm gonna add some dark purple. I'm gonna do my best to kind of cover some of the clear spaces that haven't been filled yet, but it's okay if it touches that dark blue a little bit too, because by the end you don't really want to have too much of the clear case showing through. So I'm just gonna bounce, ooh, excuse me, a bit too much. I'm gonna bounce right here, add some down here. Again, you can kind of go into your blue a little bit too, so you don't have too much white space between them if you want them to be next to each other. Maybe add some up here. Again, I'm bouncing with my sponge. If you wanted to overlap over your dark blue a little bit here and there, so they're next to each other, but you don't have the clear space peeking through, you can. Maybe some down here. And you can always go back for more purple, bounce some off to your paper towel so you don't have too much, then go on to your cell phone case. Again, take your time if you want to go back in a second coat. And you're always welcome to push pause on this video and touch it up as you need. Once you're done with your dark blue and your purple, wipe off a lot of the purple. You really don't want too much dark purple on this one. And maybe find a nice clean area of your sponge, that same sponge that you've been using. Find another clean little area that's not wet. And I'm gonna go into that really pretty bright blue. So I'm gonna find a clean spot, go into that light blue. Again, if you need to pour it out into your wax paper, you can. Bounce them off. And I'm gonna be going in there and finding some areas that I haven't added any paint to. And again, it's okay if they touch the other colors. Kind of go into the other colors just a little bit so you don't have any white space poking through. These colors look really good next to each other, really pretty. If you got too much dark blue or purple on here, you can wipe it off. Light blue, bounce on my paper towel. My paper towel kind of looks like my galaxy sky a little bit. Again, if you wanted to kind of add a little bit more, you can do some around the little window up here as well. And again, if you wanted to go in there and add a second coat of this baby kind of blue color, this lighter blue color, you can. You need it to be a little bit darker. We are going to be adding pink and vanilla into our sky, but if you wanted more of any of these colors, you're welcome to go back and add any more of these colors. And if you don't even want pink or that vanilla color in your sky, you can continue on to just add these three colors, because later on we'll be adding white splashes for our stars and black for the silhouette of our trees. So it will show up on top of these colors. So again, if you don't want any pink or vanilla, you're welcome just to kind of continue with these colors. And maybe now that some of my other colors are nice and a little bit more dry, you can always go back and touch them up. Give it another coat so it doesn't wipe off now that it's a little bit more dry. Our other sponge is going to be with our pink and our vanilla color. So once you're ready for your pink and vanilla color, you can put this sponge aside. And then again, you don't have to wash this sponge. You can just kind of dive right into that pink. I would even maybe give these like a couple minutes to dry so the pink and the other colors don't get too muddy. But here we go, pink. Pat some off onto your paper towel. And I'm just kind of going in there, some of those areas where there's no paint on there. This is how it's going to look like with the pink. And it looks very patchy, almost like a camouflage look. Move my cup of water. Get into those spaces. And I'm also going to use pink and vanilla in just a moment. There you go. And again, if you wanted to let that dry for a little bit, you can go back with a second coat of that pink. I'm using a canvas behind my wax paper so you can see it a little bit easier. Excuse me. Move this along. So once you're done with pink, you just make sure you don't have too much on there, but you can go back into pink and vanilla at the same time. So I'm just going to dip a little bit in pink, dip a little bit into vanilla. Both of them will be working together. You pounce some off onto your paper towel, and then any area that I see that's really really open and doesn't have any paint, I'm gonna go in there and just add this vanilla-ish pink color. If you get blue or purple and you don't want it on there, just wipe it off. But at this point, pink and vanilla are working together. If you need to let your paint dry a little bit more so you can kind of build your pink and vanilla on top of it a little bit more, you can. So pink and vanilla. Kind of go into that space and fill it in. Remember, you can overlap your colors just a little bit so you don't have too much of the clear showing through. If you want to, you can always go back to these colors too. Kind of get your galaxy however you want. Again, just be sure you're jumping up and down, creating that texture. You can go back into more vanilla if you want some more vanilla colors. So if you just wanted to go back to vanilla, you can. Some more vanilla on your sky, you can. Or just have pink and vanilla on your sponge at the same time. All right, and then we're gonna let our phone cases dry for a little bit. Wait maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. And then in just a moment, I'm gonna use my big brush. So my bigger of the 2 brushes, I'm gonna get it wet, dip it into my white paint. Again, you can pour some onto your wax paper. I'm gonna flick my brush so I can get splattered stars on there. But I definitely want it to be a little bit more dry. So I'm gonna give mine a couple more minutes. Again, if you wanted to go back in there and add some more colors to yours, you can. Take your time, but at this point we're just waiting for our paint to dry. If you want the colors on your phone case to last a little bit longer too, once it's completely dry, if you have glue at home, you can do a coat of glue on top, or Mod Podge, which is pretty similar to glue. It'll conceal it and keep it on there so it doesn't get scratched off of your phone case as easily. I've seen on some of YouTube videos or Pinterest videos that people are putting resin on there. So resin's gonna give it like a really deep glossy look. You can find those products at like craft stores. That could be another way of sealing your image by adding some resin on top. Resin's kind of stinky, so you might want to make sure there's an adult around. All right. Continue to keep yours drying, so be sure that you're not doing yours just yet, but I want to show you my splatters of stars. So again, while I'm showing you the example, give your phone case a little bit longer time to dry because it's still probably pretty wet. And again, if you need even more time, take your time. You're always welcome to push pause on the video. But the next step, big brush, water, Make sure it's not dripping. You can always pat it off on your cup. I'm gonna go into that white paint. And I'm gonna hold my brush like this, so it kind of looks like the number 1 when I look at it. Bend it down a little bit, and I'm gonna flick it back like a mohawk. So here's my brush. I'm gonna hold it like this, about 6 inches back, not too close. And then you can start splattering your white stars on top. You can always go back for more water, make sure it's not dripping. Your white paint. And you can truly add as many of these white splatters as you want. Just be sure you have a good amount everywhere. We're going to add some trees later, but again, you want to make sure you have a good amount of splatter. There you go. Go ahead and wash and dry your big brush when you're done. Find a nice clean area on your paper towel. You can even flip it over. Just make sure you don't get any on the desk that you're working on. You can flip over like this and just kind of clean your brush that way. But again, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes to dry before I add the black silhouette of my trees. Take your time with your galaxy, take your time with your stars. I think I'm going to wait about 4 or 5 minutes until I start mine, because mine's still pretty wet. I was going to give it a couple minutes, but I think it needs a couple more. Later on, you will be using that plate that we've given you to carry your cell phone case a little bit easier. You can always use your brush and write your name on your plate too, so that you know that it's yours. Right, I'm going to show you the inspiration piece for our trees. So our trees are going to kind of look like these, where we're going to make a line for our tree with our small brush, and then we're just going to jump with our bigger brush to kind of fill it in. This is kind of like our inspiration piece. For our trees. All right, artists, I'm back. I wanted to wait for my case to dry a little bit more, so I gave it like 5 minutes of drying time. And now I'm gonna start building my tree. So again, be sure you don't have any big, blotchy, shiny, wet spots before you start building your trees. At this moment, you can just watch me create my trees, and then once you're done, you can start laying out your trees as well. I'm gonna start with my small brush. I'm gonna dip it into my cup of water and bring it to a nice point. So a nice point. And then I'm going to go right into my black. And you can just dip your brush into the little black container, or if you wanted to pour some out onto your wax paper, that's totally fine. So small brush, black paint. And I'm going to be making just lines on how tall I want to build my trees. And each line there's going to be a little bit of space so I can build out from it. So a little bit from the left, I'm going to make a line. And remember, the harder you push, the thicker the line becomes. So you can just barely push on your brush and just kind of sweep a little bit on the top. This is about halfway point. I don't want to go past this halfway point. I want to make sure it's mostly on the bottom half where I have my trees. So again, a little bit space from the left. This is about my halfway point, so I'm staying a little bit underneath it. I'm gonna Go in there and give this another coat of black, just a little bit. Once you're done, you can go back into your black paint again and leave a little bit of space. A little bit shorter than the other one. I'm gonna come down and make another little line. Barely pushing on my small brush and just kind of sweeping at the top. Once you're done, you can go back in. I'm gonna go a little bit shorter than the first one. Just a little bit, but definitely taller than that second one. I'll build a little mini one over here to the right. Almost half the height of the one before it. Come up just a little bit. So I have 4 trees. If you didn't get to fit all 4, that's totally fine. Just make sure it's gonna be a nice full area. You have enough to kind of go in there and fill in that bottom area of your case. So once you're done with your 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, if you have just 3 lines, that's totally fine. You can wash and dry your small brush. And you're gonna grab your bigger brush. You don't have to wait for that black to dry. I'm gonna dip in the water. I'm gonna pinch it to make it flat. So I wanna get out most of that water. I'm gonna push down on it to make it nice and flat. And whenever I go into my black, I am gonna just kind of jump side to side, almost like zigzag back and forth on my line, and I'm getting smaller and smaller with my zigzag because I do want the top part to be thinner. So it's gonna be wider on the bottom and thinner on top. So bigger brush, black paint if you just wanna watch the first example. I'm gonna start a little bit left to this line. I'm just gonna bounce back, again, just kind of zigzagging, using the tip of my bigger brush, going back and forth, and get it a little bit less wide as I work my way up the tree. And again, I'm kind of zigzagging to the left and to the right. And if you want your tree to be more full, just kind of go back in there, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Just jump with your brush. And again, just be sure you're getting a little bit less wide as you're kind of going a little bit higher up. So there's my first one. And again, you can go in there and add more black if you want it to be a little bit more full. Show you the second one. No, start a little bit to the left, and it's okay if it kind of runs a little bit into the other one. I'm jumping and I'm kind of going from one side to the other, kind of zigzagging back and forth. Remember, this is going to be a triangular shape, so I'm getting going less and less to the left and to the right. As I'm getting to the top, there's just a little bit peeking through. You can even go in there and just add a little bit to the top by holding your brush like the number 1 and just kind of bouncing at the top. Again, if you wanted to go in there and make it more full, you can. You're holding your brush like a minus sign at this point, just kind of going to the left and to the right. Same thing on the third and the fourth one. Black paint, going to the left, to the right, just kind of zigzagging back and forth, making sure those zigzags are going less and less further out as you're getting higher and higher on your tree. Again, I can add a little bit to the top. Like so. You are. There's your very cool kind of galaxy with trees phone case. You can kind of go back and fill it up a little bit more as you need. Take your time. it's nice to even like step away from it a little bit further out and see if you can see any spots that you wanted to fill in a little bit more. Sometimes when we're so close to our image, it's hard for us to see everything all together. So if you want to just kind of take a step back, look a little bit further back at it, kind of see some of the spots that you might want to add a little bit more black to. Again, it's more full down here. You want all of them to kind of have that triangular shape and just zigzag back and forth with your big brush. Take your time, but once you're ready, you can make sure everything is nice and dry. Again, if you wanted to write your name on your paper plate so you know that it's yours, just carefully put your phone case on top. And again, if you wanted to actually use this, it's for an iPhone 7 Plus or an iPhone 8 Plus, and you can use glue or Mod Podge, something that dries nice and clear, to seal it. And there's also a resin that you can get at some craft stores. Again, it's kind of stinky. I probably need an adult's help, but that'll give it a super nice shiny gloss. All right, artists, there we have it. There is your awesome Galaxy with Trees phone case. If you're still working on it, not a problem. Take your time, and hopefully we'll see you soon.